So let's talk about how this is not a real reality. Meaning, like, this is not a self sustaining reality. Inside of this reality, everything is predicated off of something else, which is the duality. A lot of the times over the years, I always reserve my opinions on things because I always found myself coming back to this point. Even though I like to provoke thought and help people think outside the box and shit, but I always come back to this point. So basically, let's say that this is a realm. We all agree that this is a realm. But for the life of me, I always, in the back of my mind, deep in the back of my mind, felt like this is a vacuum. And don't mind that annoying ass chirping. Always felt like this is a vacuum. And it vacuums souls into this place. And somewhere outside of this vacuum, it connected to physical, real, self-sustaining beings or energy. And while inside of this vacuum, just like the Matrix depicted in the movie, how they was all sleeping inside of pods, but they was all sharing a connected dream world. That's why they showed that movie, because they was trying to provoke thought. And a lot of people can't really see what makes this a simulation, because in order to throw us off that it is one, right? we had to be given things like pain, feeling, emotion. Like, I can touch stuff, so that registers to my brain that this place real. I can feel stuff. I can feel air. Somebody could piss me off. I can feel pain. Something can hurt. I can get hungry and shit. Thirsty. I could desire stuff. But let's say inside of this place, right? All those are programs. Same thing like the stuff around us. Like, we believe there's a such thing as intelligence. But let's say inside of this realm that we in, there is no such thing as intelligence. But instead, it's all programming. Like, for instance, like when you see a sunflower grow, and someone out there knows what a sunflower is, what it does, how it works, etc., etc. Now, in a self-sustaining society, outside of this realm, all living beings would know what everything does, how it works, what it's used for. Basically, everything communicates with each other. Inside of this realm, no one knows anything until it's given to us, or we don't have access to nothing until it's inserted into this reality. And we are made to believe we create and make these things. But the only thing that we create and make and have is our imagination. I'm always saying that this realm is magic. But even that part is also a part of the program. Even though outside of the vacuum, the universe, the real universe, is based off our imagination. And if we was allowed to use our imagination and be in our true form and state, we will be creating our imagination into the physical. But as long as we're inside of here, in this vacuum, they're just thoughts that never come to reality. At least not in the physical, right? So, all the information that we have is just programs. I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not saying it's false. I'm saying this is something I thought of. So, when any information or data becomes available for us to learn from or know, it's no different than like a computer geek writing code, script, or program. And it seems like they were showing us this for all the people that was born in the 80s. Like when they came out, them games called Sims. Way before we got to this point in internet and all that. They were showing us back then about Sims, which is short for simulation. So if I was a computer programmer, I can program the plants, the dirt, the environment, literally everything. And that's how I could have control over the whole planet. Because it's not real. But in order for this place to even operate or exist, it has to have an energy source. So, like a regular conventional computer, you got to plug it into the wall, and it has to have some kind of electricity flowing through it in order for it to be a computer. So, the souls that get vacuumed into this place provide that energy to run the simulation. Our subconscious mind is hacked in order for us to all see this reality and experience it, and to generate how it looks, moves, and works. And the simulation, or the invisible computer that we can't detect, is the bridge that connects the gaps in between everything else. That gives us the illusion of this reality as being real. I know that's some old deep ass shit right there, but that's the shit that be in the back of my mind for real. You heard? So that's why it's easy to be able to program things like gang stalking. It's easy to program things like synchronicity. So no matter where you go on the planet, you can sync up with somebody. Like right when you're going into a bathroom, somebody coming out and you bump into them. You're driving down the street and somehow you get into an accident that is like a car came out of the clear blue sky, like it got portaled there so you can run into it at that point in time. Also, when you look at a different layer of it, the Asian groups and the Muslim groups, they read in hieroglyph, while the rest of us, Spanish, English, French, German, In the other languages, we read in alphanumeric. So even though we use different, like speech or whatever, we all still use the base, which is A, B, C, D. They probably say Abba, Kase, Day, and stuff like that. Or whatever. But it's still the letter A, B, and C. You get where I'm going? But like the Asian language, look like they drawing pictures and shit. Same thing, kind of like with Muslim language, if that's what you want to call it. They still use pictures, and somehow they all know what that shit mean, which lets you know like there gotta be some kind of simulated shit going on there, which leads me to believe that before all of this Tower of Babel and language stuff came into play, humans, or just living beings in general, had to have some type of form of telepathy to make this shit work, to be self-sustaining. But that was before we got pulled into this vacuum. Because you get asked this question here: do animals communicate? I think so. Would a deer in Russia have a hard time understanding a deer from America or Canada or Australia, if there's deers out there, which I think the kangaroos is the deers? Nope, I don't think they have a language barrier there, because they use telepathy. Even though we can't sense it, they understand each other. But humans, we was divided on purpose, so we can't understand each other. So then we gotta go get extra programming, which we call training, right? To be able to understand each other. So we gotta go to school to learn all these different languages. So then we don't have to use an app or some kind of device for translation like they do in the UN meetings. In the UN meetings, they use a device that they talk through, and then it translates the language. But this is the part that connects, that I think people probably don't think about. See, they keep saying this shit since the like 90s or 80s or whatever, that there's a one world government that they're trying to put together. But how is there a one world government getting put together when you have all these different languages, yet you have the same standard of living across the whole globe? What do I mean? We all live as citizens, a part of a society. We work. We have government. We exchange currency. If we don't behave how the program wants us to behave, then we can go to jail or prison or even get killed. We have beings that rule over us. Yet we speak these different languages. So that means something programmed all this shit. But it kept us in a state where we divided. So then we don't come to one understanding. You can see this playing out with religion, language, and various differences in lifestyle. But even though lifestyle differences like slightly are different in different countries, one thing remains is that one part: we all citizens under a government. We exchange currency. We have police. We go to jail. We have cities. Yet we speak these different languages. But somehow we came to this understanding to use government in the same form or fashion across the whole planet, which goes to show that this was possibly programmed. And the only reason why we use different language, so we can't connect with each other. And to ensure that we don't connect, we was genetically manipulated and reduced to using 10% of our brain. Because if we use more than that, then we would be transcendent masters within this vacuum, being able to be Morpheuses. All of us will be Morpheuses, moving around in this place. And whatever created this false reality needs to have control over consciousness in order to control the whole reality. So that's why I think I always steered away from politics. Because politics is just a thinking box that you get placed into that's very minute. So when people say things are the way they are based off of money, you ain't even touching the surface with that shit. Because money is just a tool that we exchange amongst each other. And the ones at the top of the pyramid inside of this simulation don't necessarily use money. They just exist in order to help keep the structure of the system in place. But we think they use money. But the internet and media just says these people are worth billions and all that type of shit. But if you ever met anyone in real life, they had $1 billion or $1 billion in money sitting next to them, the only power that they have is not the money itself, but the fact that the rest of the individuals around them don't have money. But if everyone had it, then money would be useless. So getting into politics is stupid, because you start going around in these circles where like the dog chases his tail. So basically, if everyone had money, money wouldn't be a problem. So you have to make sure you have these different class levels in order for money to have power. So anybody who ever said communism and dictatorship was a bad thing was a person who was caught up in the politic programming. Because no matter what you call this reality, as far as the governmental systems, you could call it socialism, communism, dictatorship, democracy, whatever. All those names fit and they don't fit at the same time. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what you call it, everybody falls up under the same bullshit. If you don't be the type of citizen or slave that the program wants you to be, and you go off the program, then you got to get adjusted by the Adjustment Bureau to go back onto the program. No different than like a computer when you put in antiviruses and anti-malware. Like the Men in Black who played a role as the Adjustment Bureau. Some of us see them, some of us don't. They like that medium buffer that helps put all of us back on track when we try to get off our track. Because if we're off our track, then that can cause burps or issues inside of the program. Just like when a computer catch a virus. A human or whatever not being who, the Matrix brought them here to be is like a virus. So people who think about money, they not really a threat, because it's not about money. But when you get filtered through the political program, they want you to focus on money and say everything about money. But we all seen and we all know that people with actual